All right, everybody, welcome back to On Cycle. My name is Michael, as usual, but you see no Robbie today. I'm going solo. He's on vacation out in the Montana, doing his thing, doing his yeehaw thing out there. So today I'm riding solo, and for our 10th episode, some of the things that some of the listeners out there have said they really want to kind of dive into a little bit more is some of the older members of Drum Corps. We've been talking to a lot of the kids that are getting ready to go on DCI. We're talking to a lot of the younger members and some staff people and even myself and the horn sergeants coming in. They're still currently marching. But what about the people that make it happen? The people who have made it happen for a million years, who are still making it happen today. Who are they? Where are they coming from? Let's talk to those people. Let's see for them. So for episode number 10, or if that's backwards, is it this way? I don't know. For number 10, we brought in Lois and Lou Tierno. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. So this is obviously a little bit of an exciting episode for me because for those of you out there in TV land, you guys are both such a huge part of my upbringing in the activity from, just a young lad that was my son's age now. You guys are seeing him through this activity, which is incredible in and of itself. And so many people, at least specifically in the Buccaneers and even DCA, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, have known you, have seen you, have seen you guys through your careers. So one of the things that I would love to start with as we get going is where both of you started your time in Drum Corps. So where was it? When was it? And all those things. Can you guys fill us in? Because I know not a lot of people know.
Well, we're a couple years shy of 1 million.
A billion years.
Just for the record.
Yeah. Just a few.
But I'll start. I said for me, my Drum Corps career started, I guess my dad was in Drum Corps when he was a kid. And I think he marched up until 1953 when my mom got pregnant with my sister. But as I was growing up and started playing the trumpet when I was in 8th grade, I think, and he started to talk to me about what Drum Corps was and how much fun he had doing it and how much, he missed it when he had to leave. And then my sister, through work, found out that there was a drum and bugle corps competition in Allentown.
Okay.
This is 1977 now.
Okay.
And so she got tickets. And so we went, and the very first drum corps I ever saw was the 1977 Reading Buccaneers.
Oh, very cool.
Having just picked up the trumpet a few years before, and watching that, I really felt like that was something I wanted to do eventually. My dad then found out about Archer Epler. The Archer Epler Musketeers were still alive, and so he started to go out to the post in 1980 for rehearsals, and then the Corps decided to go on the field and compete because they were just a parade corps before. And so in 1981, he started taking me out, and that's when I joined the Archer Epler Musketeers. So that was my first drum corps experience, and I was by far the youngest person in that drum.
At that point, how old were you?
At that point.
I was 16.
16. Okay. Yeah. And obviously those early senior corps years, there's a lot of senior members. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so you got to march with your dad then?
I got to march with my dad,
so cool.
which, and I tell people this, it's like, that is something that I didn't really appreciate until way later than I should.
Right.
But yeah, I got to march with my dad for a few years in Archer Epler. And then when we went to Reading in 85, he marched in the honor guard for a couple of years.
Okay.
So
while you were marching in the Corps?
While I was marching in the Corps, yeah.
So 85 was your first year with the Buccaneers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great start. That's such a, such a weird, not weird, but an interesting transition from Archer Epler to, the Buccaneers.
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah, I have,
Interesting.
And again, in those years, for those of you young people out there, we've talked about it many times on the show, is that switching corps was not a thing that you did back then. It was very, very frowned upon. It was almost like, leaving your family, and getting cursed out almost. Yep. So it's a very, that's a bold move, to do all that. So how about you? How about you, Lois? Where did you start?
I actually started in indoor color guard. I belonged to the CYO Shamrocks out of St. John the Baptist grade school in Manayunk, and I did that for a lot of years until I then got hooked up with a fife and drum corps, and I was there for a while. And then some friends wanted to go to Archer Epler, so I went with them there. Had no idea what a drum and bugle corps was because I just did indoor color guard. I had no idea or a fife and drum corps. I had no idea what the drum and bugle corps was. So I went there, and again, it was 1981, I think.
Okay.
And I joined the Buccaneers, got in the color guard, enjoyed it. Then in '85, we were together, and we did, Archer Epler in '84 decided at the end of the season that they were not going to go out as a competing corps anymore.
Okay.
So then we went to first corps we went to was Bushwhackers.
Okay.
And
For a
then
day.
For a day.
for a
For a
day,
day.
for a day. It just, it's funny. Every corps has its own personality.
Yeah.
And I think you end up at a corps that best fits your personality.
I do.
And for us, Bushwhackers was further away. We lived in Philadelphia or around that area.
Mm-hmm.
And Bushwhackers were in Harrison, New Jersey was about a 2-hour drive.
Oh, wow.
To go to Reading, it was an hour. So
logistics sometimes
really took over that it was the best thing for us to do was to go to Reading. So we did.
So you guys both met in
Archer
Archer Epler?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 40 years ago?
It's a while.
It's
It's a while ago.
Yeah.
42 years
42
ago.
years
Who's
ago.
counting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but who's counting?
I know.
But who's
So
counting?
42. That's how old I am. So.
Oh, yeah. That's like,
And I'm old. So
We almost had to edit something there, Mike.
listen, for those of you out there who don't know, Lou always has choice words for me. So 85, you guys get to the Buccaneers, and it's just there since till today, pretty much.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember a year when you haven't been at least involved some way or shape or form.
We can't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is incredible.
Well, in 1986, I actually did not march because I had back surgery.
All right. I forgot about that.
And then, other than that, I was with the Corps every season until 2013, which is
Right. Which is when you went to
DCA.
right? Which we'll get to that in a minute. And so all those years, and you did obviously were there too. How many years did you march?
I marched 85 and 86 in the color guard, and then I went over I was secretary. I've done a lot of different jobs in the Buccaneers. I originally was on the executive committee, and then I don't know how you got on the executive committee, but I think it was like a choice. The things that we have found out is that if you can only have one person in your family on the executive committee.
Okay.
It doesn't make, like, we
not a
don't,
rule.
Mike, you know us.
Yeah.
We don't always agree.
Yeah, of course.
So we're better off if one is on the exec committee, then the other one has to take a supporting role. And I've just been doing the supporting role.
Right. Yeah, and for those of you out there who don't know, obviously, if you know the Buccaneers, you know Lois, and she's doing all the support stuff all the time.
Thanks.
You know her. She's mom, like everybody's mom. I'm 42, and she's still mom to me. And, so I say this all the time. The support staff is what makes any drum corps
I agree.
absolutely function 100% of the way.
Yep.
You know, the administration does a lot of important stuff, and then the marching members, we're just there to have a good time. You know, everybody else is there, like you guys, doing all the hard stuff behind the everyday things that is not necessarily so exciting all the time, that make everything run and function. So and you've basically been a support staff person since 87?
No, well, yes.
Okay.
I mean, but I was on the executive
that's right, yeah.
committee for a while, but not for very long. I pretty much have been doing.
If I remember right, you did 1 year secretary and maybe 2 as treasurer.
Oh yeah, I did 2 as treasurer.
Okay.
And then other than that, I've just been on the
Right.
support staff. I mean, things have to happen there, and I found a purpose.
Yeah, and it's great, and again, I know in the many years that I've been there and other places and seen other support staffs function and work that the Buccaneers have such a good support staff. It always functions, even when it's low in numbers. It's still mighty in power. Always. So you guys move through the executive positions and all that other stuff. And Lou, were you marching and doing executive stuff at the same time?
Yeah, I was. So I marched until 2000, but I think it was in 93. The Corps was struggling.
Yeah.
From like 1988 until, of course, started to rebuild in 1997. When the Corps was struggling through those years, we had very few people involved in the admin, so we didn't have a full complement of admin.
Right.
And so they asked me, was at the time, Ron Garris was the director. I think Gary Koenig was on the committee, and they asked me to help.
Okay.
So I started helping them sort of in the business manager capacity.
Okay.
Back in 93 and stayed again until 96 when I left for that year. And then when I came back on, Jimmy Gruber was the director, and he asked me to come back on as the assistant director.
Right. Jimmy started in what, 96? Does that sound
96,
right?
yeah.
So for many of you out there who don't know, and you only see the current Buccaneers and the absolute powerhouse that they have become over the last 15, 20 years now, the Buccaneers almost didn't exist. For a long time, and it's obviously it's people like you and other people like Gary you mentioned, and Diane is part of that crew, I'm sure as well too, that are the home of the Buccaneers, and you guys, everybody, you're just a common household name when you think about the Buccaneers, and and a huge part in you and Jimmy and all those guys of bringing the Corps to what, when they started their run in 05 to kind of continue to be the juggernaut that it is currently. And every Corps has those people, the Cats, from the Caballeros and the Costellos that were up there for forever, and all those things. And those people, again, they're common household names, which are so important for you young people out there that are watching this, which I know you are. Continuing to stay involved with the activity in the Corps is what keeps the activity that we love alive for as long as it can be, right? This is one of the reasons why, I left for a little while, had my kids and came back, and I was like, I want to get to the point when I'm done marching, whatever that may be. It's 2032 is what I think.
Okay.
That's my goal. But when I'm done marching, that it's still an activity that exists and it's around that I can enjoy, and that I can still, I can watch other people, do what I've done for 30 years at that point. So in everything happens, the Buccaneers become who they are. Lou, you moved up to director at one point. And then at one point, this is the part that I was really interested about, because I actually wasn't involved with the Buccaneers at the time when you guys left to go become administrators. What do you call them for DCA? Was it administrative positions at DCA? Which positions did you hold at that point?
I was just the treasurer. When I first got there, Lois was actually working with DCA first.
Okay.
And they kind of asked me to help. I don't know if anybody would remember Red Corso, but Red was the treasurer for DCA for like 42 years. Wow. And they had asked me to help him because he did everything in notebooks.
Okay.
That's the way you did things.
Sure.
And they had asked me to help him get into Quicken, or QuickBooks.
Yeah, QuickBooks.
So I started to work with him on that project. And the idea was that I was going to get that done and move away. And unfortunately, he passed away unexpectedly. And the story is, and it's a true story.
It's a true story.
we were on a river cruise.
Okay.
Viking river cruise.
On the Rhine River. And I get a text message from the late Glenn Johnson that says, "Congratulations, you're just elected treasurer of DCA." And I picked up my phone and went, "What? What just happened?" I didn't even know I was up for election.
Right.
But then I spent the next 4 seasons as treasurer.
Right.
So until I came back to the Bucs in 17.
Okay. What were you doing? I know you said you were there. What was your position?
I went over first before he did, and I wanted to try something different besides the Buccaneers.
Sure.
And Alan Bugle and I were really kind of close friends. And Alan's like, "Yeah, sure. Why don't you come on over? I think we have a position here." And at the time, there was a position, the A-class coordinator, which was because you just had 2 classes. You had open and you had Class A. And the Class A was just the smaller corps. And it was a lot of, the idea was the Class A corps needed someone to help them along. Like, what do you need? What are you doing? Well, if you're doing it that way, maybe you should do it this way. So it was kind of helping corps develop, or in some cases just even begin, because I also used to go out for looking at corps that wanted to join DCA and getting them through the process of, okay, do you have your books in order? Do you have the members? Do you have the staff? Do you have, just everything in place so that you're viable and that you will actually make it past your first year.
Right.
So I did a few of those. And I liked it a lot because I got to meet a lot of people and I got to help people. I got to help other drum corps. Lou always has been very loyal to the corps that he is in, the Buccaneers. And I am very loyal to the Buccaneers too, but I like drum corps. I like all drum corps.
Yeah.
And for me to be able to help drum corps and the activity itself just to keep going is like really what I like to do a lot of. So you'll see when I'm out, I pretty much talk to everybody and I know everybody. But that's what's really good. That's what I really like. I like knowing people. I like helping people. I just like seeing people succeed.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you have 10 members, 20 members, 128 members. I just want to see you succeed. I want you to be good at what you do and to do it and to really want to do it well and to want to be competitive. I mean, that's where I really that's where I like it.
Yeah.
Everybody's competitive and everybody is trying their hardest and being their best.
Yeah, I share that exact same sentiment, and you guys both know I was in other drum corps, before or in between my Buccaneer time, and the Buccaneers are always my home, but I found homes in other places too with that same kind of mentality. I was like, if I'm going to be here, I want this organization to really grow, to shine, to be great, to be the best it can be while I'm there.
That's really what I wanted to do, and that's why I liked it so much. Doing DCA and just with DA. And then when they finally decided that they were kind of restructuring things and they didn't need an A-class coordinator anymore, then I did marketing for a little bit.
Okay.
And then we kind of came back after that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really neat. I remember watching you from afar because I was sort of, I was doing the parent thing at the time. My kids were young and in the military. So I was watching, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, if they're the two best people to go and help DCA be successful and to do the things and to come with the right attitude and the right knowledge and obviously the success that's already come from the Buccaneers at that point, was 7 or 8 championships at that point you guys were leaving. So why not take the most successful knowledge that exists in our activity and put it to good use for everybody? It makes total sense. So and then it's great. And then you ended up back at the Buccaneers. You were back to being the director in 18?
17.
17?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, 6 years as director. Unfortunately, 2 of them kind of got ripped off.
Yeah.
With 20 and 21. But yeah, it's from 17 to 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then back to support and doing all the things. Were you still kind of doing support anyway, even while you were DCA?
No.
No, you were just completely removed from it.
I had to. It just I always supported the Buccaneers,
Of course.
but I didn't really have anything to do with it. I mean, if they called me up, just like any other drum corps, if a corps called me up and asked me a question, I would give the answer wholeheartedly. I mean, of course, I didn't lose my friends in the Bucks, and I still always talked to them. And we kind of knew what was going on with Bucks, but with being on the DCA committee, you kind of know anyway what's going on with all the different corps.
Right. Yeah, and it's good to be impartial too. I think at that point,
Yes.
To be that way. Yeah, and it's I think.
Wouldn't say I was impartial.
Other than Lou. So.
But he had no problem. I mean, he had nothing to do with any outcome, so
it
doesn't matter.
Yeah. So and now here we are, today, 40 plus years later, you're still involved with the Corps. You don't technically hold a position right now, do you, Lou?
I don't.
No, I know Lou's position right now is running the Dr. Beat in the back of the field. I see him out there every single week, and I'm like, why is Lou back there running the Dr. Beat right now?
That's right.
But I love it. I think it's great.
I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing it. I know other people really hate it.
Yeah.
And most people come up to me and go, thank you for doing it because I don't want to do it.
Yeah. And if you find any human being that wants to just run a Dr. Beat, you're our golden child. And you're like, yes, just Sure, man. Go to town. Yeah.
Be a little stupid.
Yeah. Right. I know.
Why would you want to do that? I don't know.
Yeah. So now that, obviously there's so much life that you've put into the activity and so many great people you've met and all these other things too. What does the next few years look like for you guys?
If you know, let me know.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, well, okay, let me ask you this. What would you like the next few years to be? Like, what's the dream, right? I know you still work, Lou, but you're retired now,
I'm
correct?
retired, yeah.
Fully
I
retired.
don't know. I will say this. Retirement is great, but it's also very weird. And
yeah.
when you finally, a little bit,
Yeah.
when you go to a job every day, and you do a certain thing every day, and you spend this much time, and this is how your life is figured out and runs, it's very weird when you have free time. Now, what I'm finding out is I finally have a part-time job, which is really kind of interesting.
So you retired to go to a part-time job?
Well, yeah, I work for part-time for G2.
Oh, okay. So right
Uniform manufacturing. Yeah, so I go, I work there like 10 hours a week. It's nothing really big. Me and a couple other women who are on support staff of Buccaneers, we just go down. We decided we all don't have full-time 40-hour jobs. We work, we don't have jobs.
Right.
So we go down there and we just work like 10 hours a week, kind of hang with each other, do uniform manufacturing, which is not the most fun thing to do, but it is. It is.
Sure.
Again, I like helping. I like seeing what people are doing. I like getting in there and doing the really crappy work. But what we're going to look like, Lou and I, in the next 5 years, who knows? We don't know. We're talking about it a lot.
I'm sure.
Talking about it a lot.
A whole lot. A whole lot.
I thought I was getting out. I can't.
Can't pull
do
yourself
it.
away.
So yeah. So I don't see myself getting out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be able to make a break.
Yeah. I know we talked about it, like I think a little bit in the off season, or it was just a little bit in the transition.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like, "I'm done," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Well, I've stopped saying that now.
Yeah.
I was saying I'm done. I'm getting out. This was going to be my last year, but it won't be. I'm not even going to pretend that it will be.
Sure.
I'm tired. I just can't anymore. So I'm not pretending. I will always be in drum corps because I have been doing this since I was 13.
Right.
In one way or another. So all of my friends are here. All of my memories are here. Do I want to step back a little bit? Yes. I mean, as you get older, it gets more difficult to do what we do, even as a support staff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can't lift those boxes up on top anymore.
Yeah.
It's hard. And just running around and just doing what we do. I mean, feeding the corps and making sure the uniforms are right and just directing everything. It gets hard.
Yeah.
It's on those warm days, it's hard.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that completely. And I often think that too. And I look at my personal marching career, and Steven's. He's a young man. He's considering maybe doing a DCI in the next couple of years, and I go, am I going to leave what I want to do and go and support staff or travel with him for the season and take that time off? Because I have a few short years left, performance years left. How old were you in your last year you marched?
It was 2000, so it was 36.
36. Okay, so I made it past you, so I'm good there.
Yeah, I marched until I was 34.
Yeah, and it becomes more difficult on the body. Obviously,
It does.
Yes,
And even doing just being in support.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it may sound like, oh yeah, so you're going to get water for somebody, big deal. It really is a big deal for the performers, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, dragging all that stuff all over the field.
I was literally just thinking this maybe a half an hour ago. I was cutting chicken as I was making dinner for the family, and my back started to hurt as I was cutting chicken, and I'm like, that's the exact thought that came to my mind as you guys were coming over, and I was like, I know I say this every single time I come through the food line or you guys do anything. I always say thank you, because I don't know if I could stand and just cut 1,000 slices of watermelon and, baggy all those little treats that you guys put together for us and all the things that go on in that. Like I'm sore making dinner sometimes because of my, other injuries and things that I have to do with. And, and I'm like middle-aged, I'm right in the middle. I shouldn't be having too many problems, but I do. and it's tough. So I can only imagine, out in the heat and everything else, some of the things that you guys are doing, the uniform fittings, being in and out of the truck all the time, and hanging up all the uniforms, dry them out after shows, and like this stuff it's labor intensive.
It is, but everyone that does it really wants to do it. They enjoy drum corps. They enjoy the corps that they're in. I can only speak for the Buccaneers, but I mean, all of our support staff do it because they want to. We have many people on our support staff that their kids were in the drum corps 8 years ago, and the parents are still here.
Right.
Which
is great. And that's the best part about the activity is that no matter what the age you are or where you are, what part that you serve in the activity is that you build friendships, and not just friendships, but almost family, to the point where you go, these are the people, like, these are my people. I want to stay with these people. I want to hang out with them. And it's awesome, and I can speak for other drum corps, at least from a perspective, an outside perspective, is that it's kind of the same everywhere. I feel, everybody loves their organization, but they love the people, and they love the people that they're with doing the things you're with. Like you said at the beginning, like, some corps you just connect with a little bit better, and you go, these are my people, and that's just where you end up staying, and you kind of hang out forever. So Lou, I love the fact that you're hanging around, because I love giving you shit every single time I see you.
The feelings.
Yeah, I know. So we're on the back of the truck, trying to load stuff, and you just look at me sideways, and you're like, it's not going to fit in there. I'm like, it's going to fit in there, Lou. Don't worry. That's us every weekend. We're packing the truck.
Somehow
up.
The door closes.
Yeah, and then that's my logistical brain. No, and looks, and that's awesome. And so, one of the other things, again, for those of you out there, this is one of the things. If you ever lived/slept or stayed at the Tierno's, Hotel Tierno, over the last 30 years that you've had people at your house, get in the comments and say something about it.
Please.
Say hello. Get down. Because
awesome.
Please
know,
say hello, because I can't remember all of your names.
Yes. Yeah. So straight from mom herself, you need to say hello, and you need to let us know. So she'll get on there, check. I have no doubt she'll respond to you as well, too, and be like,
I will try.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's endless. Like, I just started taking on more people.
No, you have a lot.
Yes. 22 and 23 was a lot. I think I had like 20 some people.
Wow.
And 20, maybe 23 people. This year I'm like at like 15, although I think it's growing because of where we're at now.
Right.
When we were at the other two locations,
you weren't as convenient.
No, not as convenient. As soon as we went to the high school down the street, it's 10 minutes away. Everybody was like, what are you doing? You still housing people? And I'm like, yeah, you guys can come over. And I love it too. I love having the people. But it's a lot. People leave. And then you're like, holy shit, my water bill went up, $200 this month. And,
yeah, we know.
And the alumni, I'm not sure if you guys saw, they gave me toilet paper again. They give me toilet paper again.
Hey, that's important.
Listen, I was happy. I was like, oh, thank you, because I'm running out. Because you have a lot of people at your home, and your home becomes drum corps central. How long, did you even remember how long you housed people for?
Yes. We moved into our new house. We moved into our new house in 2000, and we were there until 2021. 2021.
October 2020.
Okay, October 2020. Yes, we moved in the middle of COVID. It was great.
Math is hard.
Yes. So for 20 years, we housed people.
Yeah. And
we still do now.
Oh, really?
But it's admin.
Okay, yeah. So it's the people you're like, you're my friends. You can come over. It's not It's not every high school kid traveling from Pittsburgh.
No, that got to be. Yeah, it was time for other people like you to start doing that.
Yeah, I said that, and Jess and I talked about it, and I was like, it's the same thing. Like, I carpool kids everywhere. When I was young, guys like Tom and Dan Wildonger and some of those guys, I would show up to practice before the age of cell phones and everything else. My mom would just drop me off, and I was an idiot kid, so I was just like, I don't know where I'm going. Did you say yes, you were? Come on, Mom. What's wrong? I was like, I don't know where I'm going. Like, can somebody give me a ride? And everybody was like, ugh, like, just get in the car.
Yeah,
let's go. Get in the car. Let's go. And, so I did it. So now that I'm, a more mature human being, we'll say that, that I always felt like it was my responsibility to give back and do those things, give kids rides anywhere they need to go. And they stay here, stay at my house. Like, it's just part of the cycle that you're supposed to do when you stay in the activity for a long time.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a ton of fun. It's a lot of fun to have people here and, get to meet people. I housed a lot of really young kids the last 2 seasons.
I've we've done that too, and that can be a challenge because they're young kids and you have to help them make the right decisions.
Or yell at them, because they're it's 12,
you have to help them make the right decisions.
It's 12:30 in the morning and
Yes.
somebody's cooking on my gas stove, making wontons, and I'm like, guys, it's 12:30 at night. You don't need to be cooking right now. Yeah, exactly. So it's it's an interesting process.
But that was fun with all of the kids. I mean, them just getting to know each other and to interact, and I mean, and you had kids from all over the eastern seaboard, northeast United States.
Jersey,
I mean, we had kids from New Jersey,
we had kids from Maryland,
Virginia. Yeah, we had all kinds of from all different locations, and these kids didn't know each other.
Right.
But by the end of the season, they did. By the end of the year.
Yeah, they're best friends at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of them are still really good friends.
Yeah.
Some of them got married.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that tends to happen sometimes.
That tends to happen, yes.
When you house at the same place.
Yeah.
I stayed with the Reeds for a long time when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I still remember most of the people that stayed there with us, all those children, because there wasn't, like you said, you were by far the youngest person in Archer Epler when you started there.
Yeah.
There was only maybe 6 or 8 of us when I started marching that were still in high school, that were under 18. Right. So it wasn't like it is now where there's just a plethora of young men and women that are hanging out doing their thing. You can find friends. It was like, all right, well, I have 5 people I can talk to. I guess you're, and then there's, you who are just mad at me.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit. So I would love to say, and I say this to everybody out there, if you're an older person, older drum corps old, right? If you're in your 30s or your 40s, I believe wholeheartedly that the activity has moved more towards an easier activity than it has 10 years ago. I believe that from a body standpoint, from a physical standpoint.
From a physical
standpoint. There is a lot more going on the field, but one of the nice things is, and as you get older, like standing and being rigid for 10, 12 hours a day is stressful on the body. Well, now they spend a lot more time with things like dance, and we do a lot more things with stretching, and we can release the body during the show because it's part of the show, and you don't have to be so rigid all the time. So it allows, for me personally, there's no way I could keep marching with the things that I have wrong with me if I had to stand like we did in the 90s or 2000s. Like it's just not possible.
I remember we had a practice at Daniel Boone last year. No, I think it doesn't matter where it was. May have been Twin Valley, but the horn line was in the middle of the field doing their warm up dance, and the color guard was running around the track.
You're right.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. What twilight zone are we in? Yeah, exactly.
This is completely foreign to me. Watching a horn line dance and a color guard run.
Yeah. And it's a lot of fun, and if you listen, all the color guard out there that are watching, we know you guys laugh at us, but we have a good time, and it's fun. It's an easy, it's a little less stressful on the body than the old militaristic, like, all right, guys, we're going to do 50 push-ups to warm up. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That sounds terrible. So it's a camaraderie building thing. Everybody has a good time with it, but it is weird, right? To be, in the activity long enough to see it evolve into the insanity that it is now.
Evolution.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it's just running. If you think about running a drum corps 10 years ago, so much different than running a drum corps today.
How so?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, because this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on, is because those are the kind of things I think it's important to talk about, to kind of recognize, especially for some of the people who have been involved in the activity and watched it grow into what it is now. And what are the newer challenges that organizations have?
Well, where do you start?
Financial.
I mean, there's so many. So there's always financial challenges,
sure,
right? And one of the things that is so difficult is managing that financial challenge.
Sure.
Right. Everything gets more expensive. And part of the evolution of drum corps is, what's going on with electronics,
right?
Or what's going on with strings now, right? We had a show last year where we had a guitar,
right?
You'll watch the Troopers and they had a cellist,
right?
I think at times when I was director, some of our staff thought like I was just being an old drum corps fossil because I was voting against some of those changes.
Right.
But the reason I was voting against them primarily isn't because I don't think they're cool, because I think they're awesome.
Right.
You know, especially like when we did that show last year.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be one of my favorite shows, I think.
Yeah.
But those things create expense lines with no offsetting revenue.
Right.
And
Right,
then
right.
what ends up happening is, well, you have to raise the cost on the members.
Right.
And, you know, there's been a lot of talk in the last few years in drum corps about making it accessible for everybody and making it easier for people to afford. But the more and more things that we do like that and we add expense,
Yeah.
the less and less likely it is that we're going to be able to keep our dues numbers where they are,
Right.
which means it's not going to be as accessible as
Right.
everybody wants it to be.
Yeah. It's
So,
it's an odd thing, you know, and we always talk, and, you know, just not just you and I, but I think the activity itself just talks about the evolution of things and goes, you know, do we want to go back so that it's a little bit cheaper? How much money will we really save, you know, if we get rid of the 10 million props that we have? And, you know, and I think people don't realize the logistical concept that goes along with that. Like, we have an entire truck that we have to own, operate,
Right.
you know, pay for gas, fuel, you know, maintenance, and then just tote around with us everywhere we go.
Props and electronics.
For props, yeah. For, you know, and ours is, well, it's not just the props, your support staff's on there, your
Right.
stuff on there too. But really, yeah, it's, you know, there's so much more space now necessary. We used to have, you know, big blue and little blue, you know, it's just big truck and a little truck, and then you were
Right.
good to go with that.
right.
So it is, yeah. It's and housing. Where do those vehicles go? You know, in some places, some people have a nice, and some people,
And who drives them?
yeah,
And
yeah,
how much it costs to insure them?
Yeah.
And put the fuel in.
yeah, oh, yeah, all those things.
Maintenance.
Yeah,
We're going
maintenance.
through it now.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. You know, it's such a daunting process. You know, you look at fleets that DCI corps have. You look at people like the Blue Coats that have 3 semis just for the props half the time. Like, it's unbelievable. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to DCI all age specifically, and the comparison to DCI, is that DCI have pretty much full-time staff that, like administrators, that are making those kind of
Who are
decisions.
paid.
They're
Who are
yes,
paid,
who are
yeah.
paid to do those jobs.
We don't. Most, as far as I know, most of the directors of the different corps are not getting paid.
There's only one that I've ever heard of, and I mean, this is all in the rumor mill.
Right.
I think the Buccaneers actually have 2 paid positions in their corps.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I don't know why or how, or, you know, but I mean, good for them if they can afford it
Yeah.
and they could find a way to make it work, and it's supported by the organization. Then it's awesome. You know, like, I wish that could be something that we would get into. And as I looked at the DCI, you know, bringing everything together as one piece, I look at that and I go, what are the opportunities for the all age activity to kind of maybe delve into that realm a little bit, or at least pull a little bit of a piece of the pie, you know, and start pulling down some, because I know DCI as an organization helps each one of the corps, you know, with, you know, flow marching and all the other things. They get money from all different places that kind of comes in, you know. Hopefully some of that trickles down to us. And, you know, I've been dealing with Crown this year, you know, with our horns and all of our equipment that we have and whatnot. And they call me at like crazy hours of the day, and they're like, yeah, where's your storage? And I'm like, we don't have like a full-time guy. Like, I'm working today, man. Like, you can't just show up today. And they're like, wow, you guys do all this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, this is all volunteer, man. Like, everybody
Right.
does this for the love of the game.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that DCA and now all age, most of us are volunteers.
Yeah.
Nobody gets paid. We do it because we like it. We do it because our corps are really like families to us. That's where all our friends are. All our relationships are. A lot of us met in those corps with the person we married. And it's, I mean, all of the money that is taken in tuition and even raised and everything else doesn't go to pay somebody's salary.
Right.
It actually goes to hopefully enhance the experience for the members.
Right. Yeah. And same thing, like, we look at the DCI bottom line, and have perused some of their numbers, which are insane, by the way.
They're crazy.
They're crazy.
Yeah.
And everybody gets on the internet, gets all upset about, the cost to the members and everything else. And I don't think they realize how low, if DCI made their members pay the same way that we make our members pay, they'd be paying $40,000 a year to march, you know,
they would.
because we don't have really a ton of revenue that comes in from other places other than our membership dues. You know, they probably do about $500,000 in their membership dues, and then the other $1.5 million that they spend on tour is all generated through their own local businesses or whatever else they have going on as organizations.
Right.
And the same thing, we don't have those. You know, we don't have. It's maybe
And
I don't
tons
know.
of fundraising. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, most of the big DCI corps, the world-class corps, at least my perception of it is, and I don't really have any inside knowledge of this, but my perception is that most of them have an alumni base that just like
Just shells
it out.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, we don't have quite the number of alumni, and you know, we're not looking to raise $2 million.
Sure. Right.
But you know, but that helps them
Oh, I have no
be
doubt.
able to put a drum corps on the field at the level they're putting a drum corps.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that's I always felt like that was a piece of the pie that we were missing, you know? And not that we're not trying to do those things to try to raise this money. If people are out there right now watching this, go to your corps, whoever corps you're part of, and give them $5.
If every single person who was ever in the Buccaneers gave the Buccaneers $5 right now, it could be an incredible amount of money. I mean, we had 20 people a year stay at our house for 20 years.
Yeah.
If each one of you just gave $5, think of the amount of money that would be.
Yeah.
Just because you stayed at the Tierno Hotel.
Yeah.
You could give us $5. And I'm sure the same thing can be said for, I know Josh Katz
Yeah.
has a lot of people stay at his house for the Caballeros. If everybody who stayed at his house gave $5 to the Caballeros, think how much money you could give them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you know, shout out to the chalet.
There you go.
Because I stayed there when I was at that was. I mean, absolutely. You know, it's a simple thing that if you can remember every single year to be like, hey, this was something I did and I loved. Let me just give a little something back. You know, the volume of money that could be raised for every organization for our activity,
Yes.
you know, is, I don't want to say it's endless, but you know, it's significantly more than what we're getting right now.
Than what we're getting, right?
Exactly.
And also, if you're old enough and you have children now, think about them doing drum corps, because that's what's going to keep us going too.
Yeah.
And all age is a really good, viable alternative, I think.
Yes.
You know, it's only on weekends. We don't have rehearsals during the week because people have real jobs,
Right.
or they have real jobs. So they can't do it. They can't go on tour. They can't go to a 2-week camp. They can't go down to Texas or out to Indianapolis or in the middle of Ohio and spend time, you know, for 12 weeks on a bus. They can't. They have jobs. They have families. They have responsibilities.
Right.
So it's definitely a really good, I believe, training ground for young people in order to get into and be part of the DCI World Corps or their open class corps.
Yeah. I said this to a couple of people. I was talking to Dan Carr, right?
John.
Carr. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, John. John Carr, about this at our little Friends and Family Day the other day. And we were talking about evolution, the evolution of DCI all age now, getting away from DCA. And we're like, okay, well, let's leave senior corps to senior corps and let's start talking about what DCI all age is really going to be about moving forward the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I think, and I think the landscape can prove that too, is that the activity is exactly that. It is a place for young people to come and experience drum corps at a slightly lower level. You know, not lower in as far as, you know, what you're being asked to do, but in a less time consuming manner. It's cheaper. It's less time consuming. It's a little bit, I think, more forgiving. You can, for the most part, if you are, you know, you can walk into any drum corps and audition. And if you have a desire to want to be there and the right attitude, you will be able to march there. There is very, very, very few people in the 26 years I've been in the activity I've ever seen really be like, but you know, from an organization.
I think and just to kind of clear that up, horn lines, even in all age, are bigger than percussion or color guard. So you've got 60 positions there.
Right.
In color guard, you've got maybe 32.
Right.
In percussion, it's somewhere around the same number. So of course, if you have, 100 people come out, or say, 70 people come out for a brass line, that's not that bad. Some of them will decide it's not their thing, and you'll probably end up with the horn line size that you want. But when the battery, when you have people come out, you know, like 70 people come out for 30 positions, again, you can only, some of it comes from attrition that they just are not going to be a good fit for that particular drum corps. And some of it is, you know, there aren't that many spots.
Sure. Of course. You know, and I think, you know, and I always say this to everybody out there too, you know, is check your humility at the door.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, if if you want to be part of an organization, you want to play snare, or you want to, you know, you have to be on gun, or there needs to be a trumpet or whatever else, you know, like we want you, and we see the attitude and what you're putting out, and we see what we're doing. Maybe you go to the pit this year. Maybe you just be in the flag line. Maybe we'll put you down on tuba because you're a bigger
just
person.
The flag line.
You know, well, you know what I mean. When I say that you get away from the weapons, you know, and like we have a spot here, and I've seen a lot of people walk away from a lot of organizations to go, and they're just with the ego and just go, well, if I can't do this, I'm not going to do it at all. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay that you'd make that choice, but there are options most of the time. Or there are
Most
other
of the time there are. Yes,
or there are other
absolutely.
organizations. Other organizations
Somebody wants to
want
be
these things.
here. Somebody wants to be, you know, we talk about the Buccaneers.
Sure.
Somebody wants to be here bad enough. We try to
find a way.
Try to find a way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard though. I mean, some people, like Lois said, you know, sometimes if you've got 30 people trying for 9 snare spots.
Yeah. You know, it makes its way. Yeah. You know, and we have a high return rate of members too. That makes
We
it
do.
a little
Makes it difficult sometimes.
You know, and everybody, you know, it's an important thing to recognize too. As the Buccaneers, everybody sees us when we come out, so we pretty much are full every single year. We're not always full at the beginning of the year, you know, and there's plenty of people who you know, who stay in the lines wherever they are that were you know, that at the beginning of the tryouts and auditions, they were like, come back and let's see how you improve, right? And they definitely were not the first choice to make the line, but then through attrition, hard work, you know, dedication, communication, and those kind of things, they end up taking them anyway because, you know, either you held on long enough or you showed that, you know, you were there to do the right thing.
It's not,
do the work.
It's not always the person who does the position the best. Sometimes it's the person who has the better attitude.
Yeah.
Yep. We say that all the time. We said that many times on the show is that, you know, if you're going out for any drum corps, whether it be a DCI all age or a DCI, is that they look at attitude so much. And, you know, and if you can find the right organization that you jive with and your attitude mixes with what they're looking for, you know, the sky's the limit at that point too. And, you know, we talk about doing research and finding your home because I do think like not everybody wants to be a Buccaneer and everybody wants to be a Cavalier or wants to be a bushwhacker, you know? Exactly. It's not, and there's a reason for that, right? This is, you have different personalities, different people, and everybody fits where they fit and they love their groups and they love their organizations until the end of time. And they will always be that way. And that's totally fine, you know? So it's, you know, can I just say this on a personal level because my daughter just graduated high school, and my middle school band director, who was a Buccaneer back in, oh my God, I want to say 92 maybe. Okay. Her name was Chris Jennings. I'm not sure if you remember her or not.
No,
she was a 1 year. She was a 1 year baritone, I think. Okay. She was a music educator. He's probably not watching. She dated Kurt Russmiller for like before he was married.
Okay.
But anyway, you know, so anyway, she was my middle school band director. It's the reason why that I do all the things that I do. So when she went to, right around the time Stephen and Katie hit like middle school years, she was talking about retiring. I was like, don't you dare retire. I was like, my kid needs to be involved with you as a human being because I got so much from you. And I felt the same way about both of you when I was getting ready to come back to the Bucks, and I was like, because I saw you guys had left to go to DCA, and I was like, please come back, please be involved, because if and when my kids come this route, I want them to have that experience as well too. And you guys are both here, and that means the world to me because obviously my son's there, and you're watching him being as dumb and boneheaded as I was at 16. You know, you know.
Thanks, Mike.
You know, and you know, it just I think those things mean way more to people than I think people realize. You know, to see generational. People stay for you know over time, It's really,
I
one
love
of the
seeing
reasons
our
we do it.
legacy kids
Yeah.
come in.
yeah,
It's really cool. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Steven, your son, Stephen Koenig.
yeah.
You know, like seeing the kids like Stephen Koenig. I remember being at Buck Field and
He's like 3
there's
years old. Yeah.
pictures of
I
Stephen,
remember
like,
him.
in
I remember
utero.
him being
yeah,
that small.
being as
Yeah.
tall as the
mean.
table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the job he does now is awesome.
Yeah, I have a video of Julian, Texas son,
Julian, yeah.
and Katie and Steven running around at membership day, probably like when they were like 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
You know, and I just popped in because I wanted to see everybody. And
He's
I didn't.
actually our godson.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he was you guys.
Yeah,
were
he's-
That's
yeah, he's
awesome.
our
Yeah. So like, there's a picture of him, and then you know the three of them running around, and then hit Julian's rookie season and Steven's rookie season were the same year.
Yeah.
You know, which is a really really
That
cool
was so
thing.
cool.
Yeah. You know, and I marched with his dad, and then you know,
In a microcosm, like if you take one season, right? You know, part of the thing that I love about drum corps is you start a season, and I say this, I used to say this at membership day when I was there, but you start a drum corps, you start a season with 128 people that are strangers, and then you can watch it slowly evolve and become a unit, right? You can watch it. All of a sudden, instead of 20 individuals, you're starting to see a baritone, right? And then you're starting to see a brass line get together, and then you get outside, and the whole package comes together, and you can, I mean, it all of a sudden, it's a drum corps,
yeah.
right? I mean, just watching that process happen every year is really cool for me. It's one of the things.
It's one of the coolest
that I love about it.
It's one of the things that I experienced from the inside, but I never experienced from the outside.
I
And
have to work on that.
yeah, one day, you know, one day when I'm, you know, I'm broken in, definitely broken and old. So I got a couple years left in me. I told Jim I won't let him march more seasons than me. He's at 20. I think I'm at 16.
Ooh,
So
Gajewski?
yeah, Gajewski. This is his 20th year, and I know Jim's crazy. Yeah, but Jim's an anomaly because he is in unbelievable. She's in better shape than I am at almost 50. You know,
he's
and,
he's in incredible shape.
so yeah, and there's a few of us that still tote around that can, you know, attempt to do what we try to look like we know what we're doing out there. So we stumble around the field. And it's, you know, it's the same thing. Like I remember seeing you, and I remember seeing guys like Gary and Donnie and all those other people. And I remember as a young person going, that is exactly who I want to be. I remember that.
Really?
I vividly remember that. I had this conversation with Donnie my rookie season, and I didn't march with him because I think his last year was 96. And, but he was always around at that time. He was doing tons of stuff, and he's always talking to the tuba players and everything else. And I was like, you know, I'm like, what's the longest somebody ever played tuba consecutively? And I was like, he's like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 years. And I was like, I'm just going to do 20. That way, you know, and like I was so excited at that time to just be that guy. Like I was always, you guys remember me when I was a kid, like I was never out of energy. And I still not 42 years old, 41 years old, and I'm still going.
You're still going.
Yeah, I am. I just the activity drives me. I love it. I love like you guys said, the people. I always love it so much.
Well, knowing, and I'll say this, knowing where you started to where you are, I'm pretty proud of you.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot to me.
You're an incredible. It seems like you're an incredible dad. Now, I guess if we can get Steven's opinion,
I don't know.
but obviously still involved in the drum corps. Still, you know, You're a Buccaneer.
Yeah.
Right.
20 years in the military.
20 years in the military.
You did
What's the
okay.
sign behind you? Sergeant first class, ritired now.
Yeah, retired. That's right. Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome stuff. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate that because I know. So I don't say identity issues early on in my life, but you know, I was definitely there were a lot of you guys out there going like, oh my God,
not have
why?
to edit myself again.
Yeah, right. Why are you still here? Yeah.
Oh, you're still here? You haven't died yet?
Oh, good. You're still around. Okay, great. And I remember popping in like in years that I wasn't marching. I hadn't been involved in the Corps for years, and I pop in, and the eye rolls that would come, and be like, "Oh my God, why are you here?"
Probably one of them.
Yeah, you were definitely one of them. You know. So, but it's great, you know, and it's one way or another, I will be remembered. So.
Yes, you will.
It's a true story.
But no, and it is. It means so many of those people, some of these Buccaneers, they mean so much to me from an everything standpoint because it, you know, I remember. I don't remember. Hold on a second. I'm trying to remember as I say I remember. when I deployed in '03, and I was already been with the Corps for 5 years, so I knew a lot of people, and the Corps was a little smaller back then. Wasn't as we were a little closer, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
And everybody reached out. Everybody sent stuff. I got a care package, from the Corps, and I had a book that I took with me, and it had my silver bead that we used to wear on our uniforms.
yeah.
Carried it with me everywhere in my entire deployment, and all my dog tags, went with my dog tags. And they were, it was just one of those things where like you do the things that you do when you're over there, and you go, okay, cool. And at the end of the day, you're like, okay, this means something to me. And I came home and immediately was, welcomed back and all those other things too. And it just, for me personally, through all those things, it kept me excited to come home. It kept me it gave me something to look forward to. It's because of people like you, and specifically you too, because you guys were always around all the time.
Thanks.
And you and Jimmy, I would say we were like my surrogate, like best, dads, call them. And so I'm really happy that both of you guys decided to come in and talk, and just kind of share your thoughts and let the world see, the kind of people that it takes to run successful organizations. Not just successful, but just organizations, because you can define success in any way you want.
Buccaneers
Right?
were not always successful, and everyone forgets that. I mean, in the 90s, I know we're probably ready to wrap this up, but in the 90s, it was not pretty. It was not fun, and we just kept doing it because we wanted the Buccaneers to succeed. We didn't, I don't even know that it was conscious, like it was really a conscious effort, but it was just something we knew we had to do. It couldn't just die.
Right.
It had to continue.
And people sometimes think of those as like the dark days
Right,
of the
right.
We
Buccaneers.
still had fun.
But it was still fun.
Yeah.
We still worked hard just to keep it
Yeah.
alive. But if you think about the people that went through those drum corps, yeah, we didn't win trophies and we didn't get our medals and all that stuff. But without them, this would
be
never
no-
have happened.
Sure,
There would be no Buccaneers.
Yeah.
There would be no Buccaneers at all.
So, those people, I hope, when they think about their days in the Buccaneers, they aren't thinking about the fact that, the Corps was struggling so bad.
Right.
And hopefully they're thinking more about, hey, we kept it going so that
Right.
it could become what it's
What
become.
it is.
And
Yeah.
actually, I've talked to some people from those eras, and even Ron Garris. And Ron,
Yeah.
because Ron was one of the directors that at some point it was a struggle, and we were doing a history night or something, or we were at the banquet, and Lou or I or someone had said, everyone needs to realize again that there were some years that weren't so great. But if you look at those people who actually kept it going just because they knew it had to keep going, that's where all of this success that we've had really, really comes from.
Right.
It's not, I mean, it's, I'm not going to say medals aren't nice.
Yeah.
I won't say
Yeah,
that.
I do
Sure.
like winning.
Yeah.
do like,
Winning's
but-
winning's fun.
But
Yeah.
it really, if the Corps wasn't as much of a family as it is to us,
Right.
it wouldn't be as fun. It could just be a place where I wouldn't, well, number one, I probably wouldn't come.
Right.
But, if it wasn't that I cared about the people and about the organizations, I wouldn't be here. It wouldn't matter, like, what I did. And like we always say, we didn't talk about the dog tags, but the dog tags that we get every single year, those are much more important to me
Yeah.
than medals.
For those of you who don't know, Lois is the matriarch of the dog tag.
I
the
got
creator.
to be. I am not the creator.
No,
Wow.
not the-
Joel Miller and his wife Jean are the two that started giving mementos of some kind every year, and then one year they gave this tiny little dog tag.
Yeah, it was 99. It was a
Is that
little
what it-
one
yeah.
with the
Right.
right.
That's the only thing that I don't have as a
I
bucket.
don't either.
I lost it. It fell off my
it
chain
sucks.
at some point.
I don't either,
I
and
know.
there's no way to get
It's
that.
it's a snowflake it's a really tiny one. It's a snowflake.
Yeah.
And then the year after, there was a big medallion with a like a Buccaneer head on it or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the 2001,
Yeah.
and then in 2001 we started. that.
2001 we started with the dog tags, and then it's every year, and we're designing and deciding on color and thing now because it's earlier this year because our championships are earlier this year.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that, and I'm sure you know this already, is that everybody could care less about winning. we care so much about what color the dog tag is going to be. That's like the thing that everybody is so concerned about every single year. Like, wait, I don't have an orange one yet,
And
or
I'll
I don't
say
have
it
this
now.
color. Yeah.
We've pretty much decided the color already.
You know, exactly. And it's like a close held secret all the time. It's like 2 or 3 people in the world know what it is, and you never tell us, and it makes everybody angry in the best way.
Yep.
And it's like one of the most exciting things to talk about. Like, I know it's going to be the conversation on the bus all the way to Indy this year. You know, like, what color is the dog tag going to be? But, actually, I'm very curious because we always get them at retreat. Are we having a retreat this year? Does
I don't know.
that?
I'm not sure what's going on yet.
Yeah, okay.
I think there is, but I'm not positive.
Right. So where do we get them at?
I don't know.
My goodness.
Just going to throw them at
Yeah, just start
There.
chucking at people. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, and it's cool. It's those little nuances that people have been around for so long, and young kids come in. Again, for all you young guys out there that listen to podcasts and have been, gracing me with your presence over the last 10 weeks. These traditions and these things come from a place, and they come from people. They don't just, appear out of thin air. They come from the people like you guys who have kept the cord together for as long as you have, who are every single year intimately involved in pretty much every facet that exists and all those things. So as you show up to practice and do your thing and do all those things, there's like a million things going on in the background that you don't think about. Like I took over as a quartermaster this year, and I was really excited about it. And I was just like, I'm gonna do all the things, and it's a ton of stuff.
It's
a ton of
It's
stuff
a lot.
It probably
everywhere.
surprised you how much it is.
I
right?
don't think I was surprised by it because I think I kind of knew. I was surprised by. I was happy to take it over because I'm so anal retentive when it comes to like organization and putting things in order, and I haven't even gotten close to being as organized and as together as I'd like to be. And I think right now it's about 10 times, maybe 20 times more organized than it was. So I'm happy with the progress that I've made, but I'm excited to get a little deeper into it in the off season, and hopefully if the Corps allows me to continue to be the quartermaster and do all those things too. Cause it is a little daunting sometimes to do it and march at the same time. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm retired. Cause that's all I do with my time now.
Oh, great.
But yeah,
it's a lot to try to do an admin position and march.
Yeah.
And I would prefer my personal opinion that people that do admin positions don't.
Yeah.
Because there is, you see it. There's so much stuff to be done. So the last plug I'll make to the people out there is, if you have time to spend to come to the drum corps and help like drive a truck or help load a truck or move a prop or something.
Yeah.
Or serve a meal.
Or serve a meal.
Yep.
Or if you can sew.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way to give back too.
And they don't have to be every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's always really important to know for everybody out there that comes from a drum corps or has seen one before, or even if you've never been involved with it, you can reach out to any organization that maybe your godson or whoever else is involved with, if you have a family member, and just donate some time. It could be a single weekend to come and, like you said, just move water jugs from place to place and hang out with people and get to see what's going on. And you can watch the Corps, which is a ton of fun, and kind of watch it all being put together and all the pieces of the puzzle. For those of you who've never actually been to a rehearsal or practice and seen how that works, like it's really, really fun. And for all of you out there that maybe have kids that are doing the activity, come and stay for a weekend. Stay for a whole week and watch your kid. There's a lot of
see what your kids are doing because it's pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah. It really is.
And kids grow up. I've had kids that walk in my house and they can't remember to tie their shoes. Literally, I'm not even kidding.
I'm getting better.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've had parents talk to me and say, "Oh my God, my kid's never going to be able to do this. They're not going to remember their hat. They're not going to remember this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, they will." Well, no, they won't. I'm like, yeah, they will. The first time they have to come to me and say, "Lois, I forgot my hat."
Yeah.
They'll learn.
It's the most humbling experience. When you're a kid and you're like, oh my God, I forgot this thing. And you have to go say something and you are scared out of your mind to do it. But then you do it and then you get the side eyed and you get yelled at and, and then you go, okay,
and then
I'm really sorry.
Here.
And then you get the thing and then you run away real fast because you're scared.
And then you're never going to let it happen.
You're never going to let it happen again.
Yeah. I say it all the time, like, because obviously Steven goes with me. So like he, the first season, he I was yelling. I was like, dude, do you have a towel so that you can take a shower this weekend? Did you get one from the house? And he was like, yeah, I have one. And I was like, no, did you? And I said like 4 times, like, no, did you get a towel from inside the house to put in the car so that you're ready to go? He's like, yeah. And he's like yelling at me about it. I said, okay, cool. So we go to the show, we get there, and he get out of the car, and we go take a shower, and he grabs my towel.
I remember that weekend.
He has my towel, and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I told you I had a towel. I was like, that's my towel, man. That's why I asked you specifically. I was like, oh, this kid. Or then when he went to go get me shoes, I was like, hey, buddy, can you grab my shoes from inside there in the closet? He grabs me 2 left shoes. That was super fun.
Why do you have 2 pairs of the same shoes?
It's like it's a weird dynamic because it's my own kid, so I can kind of like
The kids grow up so much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from January until what used to be championships in September. It was amazing. And even I've had parents come back to me and go like, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Can't believe how much they've grown up.
I think it's one of those weird things where I don't know that I ever had this issue. Like I have my own little, like I'm a parent, so like I have a lot of thoughts about a lot of things, but I never thought that my kids were incapable of doing anything, just more of a, were they going to be focused enough to be able to see it through? And, because I've always been that way. I worked with a lot of different educators over the year, teaching high school marching bands. And I've had people tell me like, these are just children that can't understand what's going on. And I was like, that is not true. And I was like, every single kid has the ability to be taught if you teach them the right way, or if they want or have a desire to do those things. I was like, sometimes it's just focus. Kids nowadays are so distracted, are all over the place. But you're right. One of the things I've really become very fond of is the last 2 seasons, membership day. I get to talk to all the parents, or at least I ask to talk to all the parents, and you guys, allow me to do that. Indulge me because, it's me. And I go to talk to the parents, and I've last year at least, I had probably 2 or 3 sets of parents. No, it was 4 or 5 sets of parents that came up to me and said that they remembered seeing me talk on day 1, and now they're here. And, the kids have all, referenced me at some point throughout the season and, said they just wanted to say thank you from a parent, those kind of things. And that probably means more to me than anything, which I'm sure is the same for you.
You're growing up, Mike.
I'm such a big boy.
Yes.
It is. It's really, really, and I could sit and talk to you guys just all day, about all the things. And I am here on behalf of everybody who knows you to say thank you for everything that you guys both have done for not just the Buccaneers, but drum corps as an activity. I know how important you've touched my life personally, and I know that there are so many other people that probably have an even higher, I don't want to say respect, but you've touched them in a different way, and because they needed somebody in their life.
It's the best thing about this job.
Yeah, it really is, It really is. Thank you.
And we're not the only ones. There's a lot.
There's a lot of others.
Absolutely. And hopefully I'll find out who they are. And, if you're in the comments, tell me who your drum corps' mom and dad are so that I can have them in. And because I'd love to talk to them and get their perspectives and just get their stories, from all the years. That is exactly why I started doing this. And one of the things I wanted to do is just wanted to talk to people because, me, I never shut up. And
really?
Yeah, it's true. I didn't know if you knew. But I do. I like to talk and I like to learn and I like to all the things. So thank you again. Is there anything else? Oh, I always forget this part. Is there anything else you guys want to, I don't know, say or just, tell the people of the world, I don't know, whatever it is.
No, I'll just reiterate what I said a few minutes ago. We have a lot of kids that come and we never see their parents. And I don't know if everybody realizes all of our rehearsals are open. So everybody's welcome to come to any rehearsal. You don't have to ask us. You don't have to check in first. You just come to rehearsal and watch. I think it's really important that, that parents try to get there to see what their kids are doing and to see what's going on with the drum corps and to really get an understanding of, how really cool and special it is to watch what's going on a field.
Yeah.
And your kid is part of a team of 130, right? That 129 other kids or people are, I always say kids, but 129 other people are depending on your kid and your kid's depending on the other 129. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing. And if you haven't seen it, come check it out.
Yeah. What's really cool for me too is this just happened this weekend. We had Friends and Family Day, and some of the one set of our volunteers is husband and wife. Their son is in the drum corps, and at the end of the rehearsal, they're looking for him, stuff like that. Oh, and they said, "Oh, he's probably with his friends or something." I went, "Well, the performance he just did. I mean, his friends now think that he's a rock star because they've never tried to do this,
Yeah.
or can't do it." And I said, and it's a really cool thing. I said, isn't it? I said, come on, tell me, is your kid not a rock star now? And she went, yeah, he kind of is.
Yeah.
So, and it's just such a great feeling seeing these kids feel this way,
Yeah.
that they're special, that what they do is great, that they've done, they're accomplished, they're accountable. I mean, for me, that is like the thing. And I know I'm like spouting off like a crazy person, but that is what is important to me, that these kids are growing, that they're learning, that they count.
Yeah.
That they can do things.
Yeah. And that's why you guys have been around for as long as you have. And an organization wants to keep you around as long as it does, because that's the kind of
We'll see. We don't know what the next 5 years
Yeah,
brings.
right. Stop it. No.
I'll be here. We'll be here.
Yeah, yeah.
Move on.
No.
Move on.
Anyway, so I will wrap it up there. I think. Thank you again, like I said, for so much for you guys coming
Thanks
in.
for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been
This was fun.
100% my pleasure. For these who are out there in the regular world, don't forget to click subscribe. Make sure you like it, and if you ever stayed at Hotel Tierno's, you better comment in the,
That's
in the
right.
comment section.
And $5 donation wouldn't hurt.
Oh yeah,
either.
and then throw $5. Throw $5 at the Buccaneers,
Yeah.
you know, and
Or
if you're-
any other drum corps if you're with someone else.
Yeah.
Throw them to Bush, to Cabs, to Fusion,
yep,
whoever.
whatever else, Skyliners, yeah, all those guys
All
out
of the
there.
corps.
Yep. If you want your corps to be successful, you know, a little bit from everybody goes a long way. You
Yes,
know,
absolutely.
Many hands make light work. So, so thank you again for watching. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tiernos, for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said, thank you so much. All right, off cycle.